54 African countries have agreed to sign on to the African Continental Free Trade Area. This agreement aims to reduce 97% of tariff barriers over its first 13 years so that goods are able to flow much more easily across the African continent. The free trade area is certainly revolutionary, and it is projected to have widespread benefits for the African people. But free trade is not totally new in Africa. Africa has a long history of trading, and it wasn't until the colonial era that artificial trade barriers came about. So what do we know about the history of African trade? And how is this new free trade area returning Africa to its pre-colonial indigenous past? Evidence suggests that every region of Africa, north, south, east, west, and central, has historically been impacted by trade. No matter where we look, we see African tribes and kingdoms trading goods, exchanging payment, and integrating their economies. In pre-colonial West Africa, the area that is now covered by the economic community of West African states was actually a single integrated economy. Dense trade and exchange networks connected the coastal regions of West Africa with inland ones, and even the Sahel farther to the east. Cowrie shells that originated in the Indian Ocean and were used as currency in East Africa moved all the way across the continent into West Africa and even circulated there. Evidence also suggests that currency that was typically used in the Middle East was brought all the way into West Africa by long-distance traders. This suggests that West Africa wasn't just trading within itself, but it was actually connected to East Africa and the Middle East, thousands of miles away, by trade routes. Moving south, we can also view the evidence of indigenous African trade. In Central Africa, the Lubalunda kingdoms were a group of states that flourished from the 15th to 19th centuries, and their economy revolved around local and regional trade in fish, salt, iron, and copper. The Khoisan, Xhosa, and Botswana peoples further south also relied on trade with one another. The Khoisan would exchange cattle, sheep, and hunting produce for iron and copper that was mined by the Botswana tribes. Then, once the Khoisan acquired these metals, they would trade with the Xhosa in exchange for agricultural produce. The amount of trade was so prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa that when a Portuguese observer arrived at Kilwa, an island off the coast of present-day Tanzania, in 1505, he stated that the island is small, near the mainland, and is a beautiful country. He went on to say that Kilwa was full of rich merchants who spent their days trading expensive items from the African continent and beyond. So as we clearly see, Africa has a long history of allowing trade to impact the lives of its inhabitants. It wasn't until the colonial era that trade barriers were erected. When colonizers showed up, unnatural economic regions formed that made it difficult for goods to move between colonies. After the colonial era passed, many African leaders were influenced by socialist ideology and attempted to develop their newly independent countries with centralized, state-centered policies. This African socialism experiment failed, and the continent has suffered as a result. But there certainly is hope going forward. Many African states have experienced solid economic growth in the past few years, and this new free trade area is projected to spur manufacturing, lift millions of people out of abject and moderate poverty, and increase regional income by an incredible $450 billion by 2035. The more Africa embraces free trade, the more they will see benefits arise. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow the IATP on Twitter at @the_IATP. Also, hit the like and subscribe button below, and check out our website at www.theiatp.org.